Welcome to Proven and Probable, where we deliver mining insights and bullion sales in the form of physical delivery, offshore depositories, and private blockchain distributed ledger technology.
Welcome to Proven and Probable. I'm your host, Maurice Jackson. Joining us for a conversation is Michael Rowley, the president and CEO of Group 10 Metals, which is known for platinum, palladium, nickel, copper, and cobalt in the Stillwater District in Montana. Mr. Rowley, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Maurice. Glad to be back.
Glad to have you back on the program, sir. We have more exciting news coming from Group 10 Metals' flagship Stillwater West Project, which is becoming recognized for both the scale and grade of its mineralization. Your current exploration and drilling campaign has been in progress for 2 months now, and numerous holes completed. Before we get to that, Mr. Rowley, please introduce Group 10 Metals and the opportunity the company presents to the market.
Group 10 is a junior exploration company. We are at the growth stage of the cycle of these juniors. In that sense, we are pre-resourced. However, as we'll get into here as we talk about the Stillwater asset, we expect to quickly bring some ounces and pounds on the table in the coming year based on our work at Stillwater in particular. It's remarkable for a junior to have half of a district like we do, and I think the database and our work this year are very compelling.
Michael, I have a map displaying Group 10 Metals' flagship Stillwater West Project. I believe it's paramount for audience members to understand the strategic advantage Group 10 Metals has over many of its peers, and that is brownfields exploration, which is a term that the lay investor may not appreciate. How does Group 10 Metals' brownfields exploration benefit current and prospective shareholders?
The term brownfields means operating in a proven mining district, which is distinct from exploring in a greenfield district, which would have little or no existing mineral deposits or mines, and it may be remote with no infrastructure. The Stillwater West Project is a great example of a brownfields asset. It adjoins 3 operating mines that are among the very best of their kind in the world, and it's in a district that is known to be rich in minerals. We share that geology, we benefit from all that infrastructure, and we have an extensive database with known mineralized zones to expand upon. So the result there is a greatly increased probability of success and greatly reduced capital expenditures when it comes time to potentially build a mine.
Michael, let's talk a little bit about the uniqueness on the Stillwater West asset and what it means for investors. There are very few projects like this globally, so to be developing one in North America in a brownfield settings is a rather compelling story. Tell us about that, if you will.
It's the size potential of Stillwater West that's truly impressive. It's rare for a junior to have literally half of such an iconic and productive district in any commodity. It's also location and timing. We are one of very few exploration plays outside of South Africa and Russia that are focused on palladium, platinum, and rhodium. And we have terrific potential for nickel, cobalt, and copper as well. And nickel and cobalt and the PGEs in particular, the U.S. government, of course, is looking to secure domestic supplies of these commodities. So our timing in that regard is excellent. Palladium, nickel are top performing commodities, and platinum is expected to follow that with continued mine closures in South Africa. So in broad strokes, there are very few assets of this type in the world, and in North America, they're practically unheard of. The closest analogs in terms of geology are the Platreef mines in the Bushveld complex of South Africa.
Michael, you referenced the Bushveld complex. For someone not familiar with either the Bushveld or the Stillwater regions, what can you share with us about the parallels between the two with reference to your neighbor to the north?
Well, the Bushveld and Stillwater complexes are both magmatic intrusions, and these magmatic deposits give us essentially all of our battery-grade sulfide nickel globally. And they may also have a number of other commodities, including copper, gold, cobalt, platinum group. Voisey's Bay is an example of a magmatic deposit, for example. And it's one that happens to be very rich in nickel and copper, but it has very low platinum group elements. Bushveld and Stillwater complexes are both layered magmatic systems, so that's a subcategory of the bigger picture of these magmatic deposits. And they're quite similar. Bushveld is about 2 billion years old. Stillwater is about 2.7 billion years old. They're both rich in platinum group elements plus nickel and copper, and they were both created when metal-rich magma was laid down layer after layer and allowed to cool slowly and deep underground. And it's that cooling action that creates these narrow reef-type mines that are now in production in the upper portion of the layers of both these districts. In the lower portion of both districts, that layering stops, and you get these larger magma events with mixing of magmas and the host rock. And that's where these larger deposits occur, with mineable widths of tens to hundreds of meters and across kilometers of strike length. And that's what we're calling the Platte Reef-style deposits, named for the Platte Reef District, which is the north arm of the Bushveld complex in South Africa. The Platte Reef District is some of the richest real estate in all of mining. Over 400 million ounces of platinum group elements there, plus gold, plus tens of billions of pounds of nickel and copper. They're actively mining now both the reef-type mines, the narrow mines, and also the bulk mineable Platte Reef-type mines at the Bushveld. In fact, much of the world's platinum now comes from the reef-type mines, the narrow ones. However, these are deep, they're hot, they're dangerous, they've been underfunded for many years now, and closures are ongoing, and continued closures are expected to drive the platinum price in the coming year. The mines of the Platte Reef District, by contrast, are highly economic, and they produce platinum at less than $400 an ounce, plus palladium, nickel, copper, and other commodities. So at Stillwater, in the Stillwater District, a company called Stillwater is actively mining one reef-type deposit at 3 underground mines, some hundreds of meters to the north of our main claim block. That deposit is the highest grade PGM deposit in the world. It's got more than 80 million ounces at over 16 grams per ton palladium and platinum. Sibanye purchased the Stillwater mines just 2 years ago for about $2.2 billion and has since emerged as the world's largest platinum producer.
Michael, if I can just stop you here briefly. So just to confirm, adjacent to your flagship project, Stillwater West Project that is, the Stillwater mine was purchased for $2.2 billion. Is that correct?
That's correct. And in
2017,
just as we were completing our initial acquisition there, it was an active time in the district, and we were glad to secure that position. In effect, we're the first group to consolidate that land package and database and enable a systematic approach to explore for these massive Platte Reef-style deposits at Stillwater. And our early work, starting in 2017, like we just touched on, attracted a highly qualified team and quickly showed the potential of the project based on a rather remarkable database. We did our first ground programs in 2018 and expanded on that, and that further confirmed the potential across the 25-kilometer wide property. Now, in 2019, we are completing our first drill program on priority target areas, and I'm pleased to report that geologic model is holding up very nicely.
Stepping back for a moment, you referenced the team, and it's a very highly qualified team that is. Can you share some of the members that comprise your team?
We attracted Dr. Craig Bowe, who was underground at Stillwater in the 1980s and is an expert in systems of this type worldwide. We were able to bring back the qualified person, Mike Ostenson, who drilled about 12,000 meters of the core that we have in our possession. Justin Modrew, the vendor of the project, is a geophysicist who worked on past teams. And, of course, we've brought in Dave Broughton of Ivanhoe, who is credited as one of the discoverers of the Flat Reef deposit that Ivanhoe is now developing into a mine in South Africa.
We've covered some good basics. Let's find out what Group 10 Metals has discovered since our last interview. The company issued a press release last week providing an exploration update including drilling progress on the company's flagship Stillwater West Project in Montana. Mr. Rowley, take us behind the scenes and share the stated goals on the 2019 exploration program.
2019 has been a breakout year for us, starting with our debut at the trade shows back in February, where we displayed historic core for the first time to introduce the application of these new geologic models to the Stillwater District. And of course, that culminates with our first drill program done by us at Stillwater West. Our 2019 exploration program is our biggest yet, and it has several objectives. We are conducting ground-based geological sampling and mapping programs to advance less advanced target areas to drill-ready status for next year. And we are completing soil mapping across the western portion of the property, a huge area to advance targets in those areas for next year, as soils have been a very effective tool on the eastern 15-kilometer width of the property. We are also drill testing the 3 most advanced target areas, and the drill programs in these areas have been designed to provide a proof of concept of the Platreef setting, while also advancing mineralized zones towards formal mineral resources. We have over 28,000 meters of drilling in the database and 8 Platreef-style target areas in total. 5 of those have sufficient past drilling and show enough continuity of mineralization that we can work up to a geological block model as a starting point for those mineral resources. This year we focused initially on the 3 most advanced of those areas, and we expect to move those quickly forward towards formal mineral resources of platinum, palladium, nickel, copper, and cobalt. We have essentially all the core from the 2000s era work in our possession, and we've relogged it and assayed it, sometimes for the first time, as necessary, with the new geologic model in mind. And the older data, mostly drilling from the 60s and 70s, was primarily assayed for nickel and copper only. So we are re-drilling those areas as necessary to bring these holes into a 43101 compliant resource with a complete suite of assay data to go along with it.
You know, the opportunity before us here is quite intriguing. We touched on Platreef and bulk tonnage. Let's visit the Iron Mountain target area where the company has been active recently. What can you share with us?
Iron Mountain is the most advanced of the 8 Platreef-style areas on the project. Has a mineralized zone defined by 21 past drill holes. It's open for expansion within a multi-kilometer conductive high anomaly and soils that are lighting up with palladium, platinum, gold, copper, nickel, cobalt across a similar kilometric scale area. In our block model work to date, these 21 past drill holes define a mineralized zone that is about 850 meters in strike length to a depth of 200 meters at an average width of 95 meters. Drill intervals in that mineralized zone include 26.8 meters at 0.98% nickel and 0.45% copper. And that entire hole was mineralized top to bottom with 259 meters running 0.25% nickel and 0.2% copper, which is remarkable. Another similar hole nearby, about 100 meters away, returned 33.5 meters at 0.77% nickel and 0.65% copper. Those holes were drilled in the 60s and 70s and have very limited precious metal data, although we do have selective assay results running up to 2.7 grams palladium, which is very encouraging. Also in that area, we have a hole drilled in 2002 that has complete assay data, which reports 8 meters starting at surface with 3.65 gram per ton platinum, palladium, and gold, 0.14% nickel, 0.03% copper, and 0.013% cobalt. These are very attractive grades and over an 8 meter width. So you compare that to our target, the mines of the Platreef in South Africa. Ivanhoe and Anglo are running 0.2 to 0.4% combined nickel and copper, with several grams of precious metals on top of that, across tens to hundreds of meters in width and kilometers in strike length. It's early days, but our results from Iron Mountain are right in line with those numbers in terms of grade and the potential for scale. Iron Mountain also shows good rhodium results, which is timely these days with rhodium over $5,000 an ounce. We had one rock sample return almost 6 grams per ton rhodium, which I don't recall seeing in exploration results from other companies.
Group 10 Metals was active on 2 more target areas. Take us to the Camp Zone target area and provide us with an update.
Yeah, like Iron Mountain, Camp Zone includes a drill-defined zone of continuous nickel-copper sulfide mineralization that we expect to quickly move to a formal resource through our work this year. Again, we have untested conductive highs that are kilometric in scale, with coincident highly elevated levels of precious and battery metals shown in the soil survey across a similar length. Known mineralization at Camp Zone is about 50 meters thick. It runs about 1 kilometer in strike, with an average grade of 0.42% nickel and 0.23% copper, which is very high relative to Platreef grades. Like Iron Mountain, we have very limited PGE, gold, and copper and cobalt assays, in the older holes, but we have good indications where we do have data for those commodities. And like Iron Mountain, it is open in all directions and has been tested to just 200 meters depth of camp zone. This year's program went deeper than that to identify new zones, and we will add complete assay data as well as working to bring older data into that modern resource estimate.
Michael, I'd like to go back for a moment here. You referenced 6 grams per ton rhodium. I think that needs a little bit more enthusiasm. I don't think audience members truly appreciate that, because when you look at the price of rhodium, it's the fifth precious metal per se that everyone seems to overlook. And it's at 5,500, and here we're looking at 6 grams per ton. That's impressive.
That's correct. The full number was 5.78 grams per ton. We reported that back in the summer. That was in a grab sample that ran about 3 ounces total platinum group metals. It was palladium rich. What's interesting about that sample is that it may be indicative of a dunite pipe, and you get these very high grade pipes at the Bushveld, some of the oldest platinum mines, highest grade platinum mines in history were of this type. And some truly spectacular platinum numbers out of South Africa on those. So it's early days on that particular target, but that is a compelling result.
Yeah, well, it's a great way to start, even if it is early days. Before we leave the Stillwater West, take us to the Chrome Mountain target area and update us on the latest developments there.
Much of the interest at Chrome Mountain to date is centered on the hybrid unit, which appears to be a later magmatic event from much of the rest of the lower Stillwater complex. It may be what is known as an intrusive dunite pipe. We just touched on those, which gets very interesting because some of the earliest and highest grade PGE mines in the Bushveld were of that type. To date, the hybrid unit has been defined by 10 drill holes that delineate 200 meter thick mineralized zone across about 700 meters of strike. Entire holes are mineralized top to bottom with 100 and 200 meter intervals and more, grading 1 and even 2 gram per ton platinum equivalent, including base metals, and at up to flat reef grades. To date, the target has been tested to a depth of 200 meters, and it sits within a 1 kilometer wide area of highly anomalous metals and soils. Like the camp zone in the Iron Mountain, it's open for expansion in all directions, and our work this year will be moving that along nicely.
Switching gears, Group 10 Metals has a property bank that has other assets. Would you care to touch on those for the audience members?
Yeah, we were strategically acquiring brownfield mineral properties throughout the recent bear market cycle. So we've been able to acquire 100% interest in some remarkable land positions. In Ontario, we own the Black Lake Drayton Gold Project. It shares geology with the adjoining Goldland and Goliath projects. These are owned by First Mining and Treasury Metals, respectively. There's almost 4 million high-grade ounces of gold in these assets alone, and that figure climbs over 10 million ounces when you consider the broader Rainy River Belt that they're all part of. We have low carrying costs on the asset, and when the time is right, we'll do a deal based on the fact that we have over 30 kilometers of highly prospective strike in a neighborhood that, in our opinion, must be a consolidation target for a major operator. Turning back to Blackrock's and Platinum Group nickel-copper projects, we're very active in consolidating the largest land position in the Kluane-Ultimafic belt in the Yukon Territory. This is highly prospective ground adjoining and on strike with the Wellgreen deposit, which is one of the largest undeveloped PGE nickel-copper projects in the world. And it's worth noting that back in July of this year, we announced an earn-in deal by which a company called Mount Cairns Resources can earn a 51% interest in our Ultra project, which is part of that overall Kluane package, by completing cash payments totaling $750,000 and issuing 3 million shares to Group 10, and completing $3.75 million in work over 4 years to earn that 51% in the Ultra project. That deal speaks to the value of the assets that we've acquired through the bear market years, and we expect to complete more like that as part of our focus on the Stillwater project.
You know, from a project standpoint, the value proposition sounds quite compelling. But Michael, can you give us an update also on the capital structure for Group 10 Metals?
We currently have a market cap of about $13 million with about 80 million shares outstanding. And that follows a private placement we completed in August where we raised $2.45 million at 14 cents.
In our last interview, you made reference to warrants that may be exercised, providing the company an additional $2.4 million in working capital. Do you have an update for us?
I do, yeah. The exercises are ongoing, and we're glad to see that. They are presently in the money, and they are coming in. And that, of course, provides the company with additional funds for exploration and promotion.
What is the next unanswered question for Group 10 Metals? When should we expect a response, and what will determine success?
Assay results from our 2019 programs are one major driver that's expected in the coming weeks and months. This year's program returns some really encouraging visual sulfide mineralization, as shown in some pictures we posted a few weeks ago. That core has now gone to the lab, and those results will be out in the coming weeks as they become available. We're excited about that. In addition, we will be working hard updating our block model at Stillwater West, and we continue to get real interest on our non-core assets. We'll be announcing deals on those as they come in.
Sir, what keeps you up at night that we don't know about?
I think a lot of folks are not aware of how much of the world's platinum and palladium is mined. There really are two different production models there. 3/4 of the world's platinum is mined from narrow reef-type mines in South Africa. You can basically think of these reef deposits as being like veins. Even though they're geologically different, they are similar in terms of the mining effort and the nature of mining. Thousands of workers kilometers underground working mineralized widths that are often less than a meter, with rock temperatures hitting 75 degrees centigrade. These mines have been losing money for years. They're undercapitalized, and they're closing and will continue to close in the coming year. And it's interesting that South African mining companies that own these operations are diversifying now. We saw Sibanye buy Stillwater for $2.2 billion in 2017. And just recently, Impala Platinum bought North American Palladium for $1 billion. That trend of closing reef-type mines and corporate diversification outside of South Africa, I think, will continue through 2020 and beyond. So if we look at the Platreef district, also in the Bushveld complex, but to the north of the reef-type mines and blessed with very different geology, the deposits of the Platreef are tens to hundreds of meters thick. And the smallest one is 26 million ounces, which is the Waterberg deposit. And they run up to 265 million ounces at Anglo American's Mahalaquena mine. That operation, of course, produces platinum at less than $400 an ounce. Ivanhoe's adjoining Platreef mine now in construction and will have very similar attractive economics. The key to those operations is that they are bulk mining operations, and they have healthy co-product values of nickel and copper. The setting is correct for multiple potential Platreef-style deposits at Stillwater. It's there based on the known parallels between the Bushveld and Stillwater district, and it's there in our work to date. We're excited to be bringing that new age of platinum, palladium, nickel, copper mining to an iconic American mining district.
The last question, sir. What did I forget to ask?
Perhaps we could touch on the target commodities, as several of them have made interesting moves lately. Palladium continues at record highs based on shortage of physical supplies. It ran an 800,000 ounce deficit last year and expected to run a 1 million ounce deficit this year. And that's largely driven by its use in catalytic converters, so the price can be expected to stay elevated for some time. Nickel is getting a lot of press lately based on an increased demand in the battery and steel markets, especially after a large purchase by a Chinese group drew down the inventories rather suddenly just recently. Platinum is starting to move and is expected to follow gold at some point, and that most likely will be driven by diminishing supplies out of South Africa due to mine closures, as we touched on a few minutes ago. So overall, we're very bullish on the price outlook for these commodities, and we're glad to be targeting them in America at a time when the U.S. government is looking to secure domestic supplies.
Michael, for someone listening that wants to get more information on Group 10 Metals, please share the website address.
Sure, it's www.group10metals.com. Group 10 is GROUPTENMETALS.com.
As a reminder, Group 10 Metals trades on the TSX.V, symbol PGE, and on the OTCQB, symbol PGEZF. For direct inquiries, please contact Chris Ackerman at 604-357-4790, extension 1. That number again is 604-357-4790, extension 1. He may also be reached at info@group10metals.com. As a reminder, Group 10 Metals is a sponsor of Proven and Probable, and we are proud shareholders for the virtues conveyed in today's interview. As a reminder, I'm a licensed representative for Miles Franklin Precious Metals Investments. We provide a number of options to expand your precious metals portfolio, from physical delivery, offshore depositories, precious metal IRAs, and private blockchain distributed ledger technology. Call me directly at 855-505-1900. That number again is 855-505-1900, or you may email Maurice at milesfranklin.com. Finally, please subscribe to provenandprobable.com, where we provide mining insights and bullion sales. Michael Rowley of Group 10 Metals, thank you for joining us today on Proven and Probable.
The information presented on Proven and Probable is provided for educational and informational purposes only, without any express or implied warranty of any kind, including warranties of accuracy, completeness, or fitness for any particular purpose. The information is not intended to be and does not constitute financial, investment, or trading advice, or any other advice. You should not make any financial, investment, or trading decision based on any of the information presented without first undertaking independent due diligence and consultation with a professional broker or competent financial advisor.